ready. The time has come. Let the show begin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, it's a very sunny, I don't know what it's like for you, but it's very sunny here in Clacton-on-Sea, the Sunshine Coast. Graham Sykes, good morning, and we're nearly afternoon now, but how are you, sir? And let's talk to you about the world's fastest steam rocket bike.
Right, well, good morning, and thanks for letting me do this interview with you. Yeah, it's quite
Thanks,
exciting.
Julian. Thanks, Julian, as well. Julian Hunt, of course.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about your history and how you got involved in the racing side, and to obviously where you are now. But it must be a bit of a journey for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm 62, nearly 63 now, and my career's sort of taken a bit of a boost towards the end. But I've been actually riding sprint bikes and drag bikes since I was 16, and I've never really stopped. I've had children, and my job has taken me away, so I've not been able to compete quite as much. But I found out about drag racing through my dad. My dad, unfortunately, had a really bad motorbike accident when I was 6, and he put him in hospital for about a year. He was life and death, really, and he was served a bad blow. But he came round, and a lot of head injuries. He lost his eye and part of his head. But he had a lot of time off work because he just couldn't work. He was a machine driver, a bit like Dale Leakes. Well, he didn't have quite as much money as Dale.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But we used to go. Yeah, we used to go all sorts of motorsport, stock car racing, speedway, and I used to follow in. I'm really, really interested, and we decided to go to Santa Pod in 1972. I was 9, and it was a life-changing experience. I remember running up the bank because you could park your car where the fun fair is now on the road in, and running up the bank, wondering what on earth I was going to see. And I saw 2 drag bikes on the start line, and I don't know who they were. Someone like John Hobbs or Mick Butler or that sort of era. And I saw them run up, and I just thought, this is unbelievable. And I was absolutely hooked. And we continued to go for years and years. And when I was 16, I said to my dad, I want a drag race. And my dad said, well, I've no money. If you want to do it, it's up to you. And I didn't have any money either. I was a first-year apprentice. I was on £19 a week.
That right? That's exactly. We're the same age, by the way. And when I started work, £27 a week. Yeah.
Oh, well, you're obviously more skilled than me then.
No, definitely not. That was a retail trade.
Yeah, well, I was a first-year car mechanic, and it was notoriously bad pay anyway. But so I'm not an engineer. I started off as a car mechanic, and I left the trade as soon as I possibly could because I realised it wasn't for me. Yeah. But motorbikes have always been in my blood, and I wanted really, really desperate to get a drag bike or a sprint bike. And I found sprinting. We used to go to Elvington to watch, and there was a guy said, "Oh, I've got a bike that's for sale. It's a 350 blown Triumph on nitro." And it's Godfrey Wormold's bike. Now, Godfrey used to do a lot of land speed record breaking, and he said it's really cheap. It's £350. Well, can you imagine £350 when you're 16 in 1979? It was just completely out of range.
Yeah.
And my friend who was with me, he said, well, why don't we go halves? I've got the money. I can get the money, and you pay me half of it back at £5 a week.
Wow.
Like, right, we're on. And he wasn't at all mechanically minded, and he said, well, look, we'll both share the riding, but you look after the bike. And I said, right, okay, that's fine. So we did the deal and went and got this bike, and everything was going to plan until about 6 weeks into this deal. He turned up at the garage and said, I want all my money. And I said, well, you can't have all your money. We've got an agreement. And he said, yeah, but my dad's found out. I said, well, what's it got to do with your dad? And he said, well, I've taken out of his bank account without him knowing.
Oh,
So all hell let loose. And his dad came round to see my dad, and my dad was not the type of person you'd mess with.
yeah.
And I made myself scarce while all this was happening, and went into the workshop and tidied it up and made it as clean as possible, trying to get me dad's good books. And I went back into the house at 9 o'clock. My dad's just watching the 9 o'clock news, and I said, "Has Roger's dad been?" He just turned round and did my dad and just said, "You owe me now." £10 a week plus interest. So it was a life lesson. Don't ever get yourself in debt that you can't get out of.
Right.
But that was my first stepping stone into
And
motorbike.
you cleared the debt. That's
I cleared the debt, yeah, plus the interest, and
yeah,
that's the rest is history.
yeah,
I've never really conformed with classes or regulations. I tend to cut my own furrow, as you can possibly gather from what I've built.
yeah.
So I've never really had anything that's conventional, so to speak. And I've always made it all myself. I've never bought anything in. It's always been made by myself.
So have you ever, obviously you had the nitro bike, but have you ever sort of gone into, the top end drag racing in a nitro bike, or, the likes of Black Vogels and, obviously people nowadays,
No, I mean those guys are my heroes. Like Phil Brackvogel and Frank, who is a good friend now, and in his day, BJ and Brian Johnson and Ian King, and they
yeah,
were all
Ian,
guys that I looked up to and
yeah,
still do.
yeah,
And that they're cutting a furrow, but they're restricted with the regulations, and I just wanted to go as quick and as fast as I possibly could.
right,
And look at things that I want to do as opposed to things that I've got to do.
yeah,
But, I wanted to build a V8 bike, so I went ahead and did it, and we had marginal success with it. We ended up putting it into as a three-wheeler format,
right.
and then took all the three-wheeler outright records, so we still hold that. That bike was called a Psycho, and it's now in the Isle of Man Manx Museum.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah,
That's it.
never
Yeah.
never been straightforward.
So it's effectively you're king of speed in some respect, but over the sort of 60 feet, the force of nature, steam powered rocket bike has got there. It's incredible how you've created this, not conformed, if you like. It's force of nature, and in the worlds of Graham Sykes, not have it, if you see what I mean. It's great.
That's right. Well, I always wanted to ride a rocket bike, and it's not the sort of thing that somebody will say, "Hey, I've got a rocket bike. Would you like to ride it?" It's quite a unique experience, and I realised that the only way to do it would be to build my own. And I've been watching Eric for many, many years, Henk Vink
Mhm.
before that, with his hydrogen peroxide bike.
And of
And
course, Sammy Miller back in the day.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're all these guys I really look up to. They're there, they've done it, and they're almost legends. You
It's
know,
funny, isn't it? Because like obviously my experience of it all and everything else, and the likes of obviously Sammy, but then with Eric, they do the countdown, and they're telling you that it's like a lunar module engine. It's built in from, it's incredible. It's just, and you've taken it to a completely different level now. And of course, Eric's bike was on hydrogen, wasn't it? So,
that's right. Yeah. Well, I looked into hydrogen peroxide, and it's, as you can imagine, it's not without its problems. It's
no,
expensive. It's incredibly dangerous if done
yeah,
incorrectly, and it's a restricted fuel.
mm,
So trying to get hold of it is very difficult. Eric was distilling his own fuel, which is
yeah,
not without its problems.
no,
And I wasn't really, didn't have an appetite for that. So I looked at alternative rocket propulsion, but you've got to be able to shut them off. That's one of the problems with peroxide is it keeps reacting even though you shut the fuel off. And when I was a young lad, I used to watch, Evil Knievel and
Yeah.
ITV World of Sport and such like. And Evil Knievel tried to jump over Snake River Canyon on a steam powered rocket bike. And I looked into that and researched it, right before there was the internet. You go to the library and you try find stuff, being a bit of a geek. And there's quite a lot of stuff written about it. But the guy that built it was a chap called Bob Truax, who was a real pioneer in steam rocketry. And he wrote an article, almost like a white paper, on the principles. And a lot of it's out of date now, but the basics are still very relevant. So I sort of knew all that anyway. And about 15, 16 years ago, Diane, my wife, and myself were crewing with Roger Goring and Firestorm.
Firestorm, yeah.
This one particular event, we were in France, and pitted next to us was a crazy French guy called Jean-Francois Boutonnet, and he had a steam-powered scooter called the Trottinette de Vapeur, which was possibly the most dangerous vehicle I've ever seen. But it really, really went fast, and it was so hot he couldn't start. He couldn't sit on it. He stood on it with running boards at the side, and typical French. He didn't have. Oh, he just wore his race overalls. He didn't have leathers, and off he went and ran about 130 miles an hour in the quarter. And I thought, wow, this needs to be done correctly. This I've actually seen it now with my own eyes and experienced just how much power there is in steam. So that's when I started making steps to develop the Force of Nature rocket bike.
Yeah.
Now this is year 14. Now a lot of people think we've only been on the scene 2 or 3 years with it, but for years and years we had it on a test rig in the workshop, and we were trying to get it to so that we could get the valves to operate. Now the valves are the main valves will hold the water pressure back. That's the Achilles heel of getting them to work. And once you've got those working, then pretty much you can start developing the power. But no matter what type of valve we tried, we just couldn't get them to work. They were either sticking closed or sticking open. And either you're going to be very embarrassed on the line, So I wasn't prepared to ride the bike until we got it to a point where it was safe enough to ride. So that took around about 4 years on and off, and a lot of money.
So where did you test it then once you got to that point?
Well, we were testing it in the workshop on a rig,
on a rig,
up against the load cell. So we were measuring force against load, against time. And once we'd got that together, I had a word with Trevor Duckworth at Straight Liners and said, any chance of hiring Elvington so we can run this rocket bike? Now, I told him a few years before we were building it, and he just laughed and said, you're mad. And I said, well, maybe so, but it's happening. So we took it to Elvington and we tested the first time, and we had a small rocket motor, and we had it set very low and low pressure, and we ran about 80 miles an hour. But before to get there, with regards to insurance, we had to supply our own insurance, and the pressure vessel had to be certified. So there's a lot of hurdles that we had to jump through initially to get even to that point. And it was just time and money. And I think lesser people would have given up because everything's against you. And even when you do get the bike running, it's difficult to get the power out of them.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not like an internal combustion engine where you can do a little bit and it makes it a little bit better. They either work really efficiently or they don't really work at all. It's a fine line. It's a really spiky graph point that you can be 2 clicks to the left or 2 clicks to the right, and you're nowhere near its potential.
Yeah.
So it's taken a lot of, and there's also no book. You can't talk to people who've never, because it's never been done really, and there's no Haynes manual, so to speak. You can't just refer back.
You'd have to write one. Right, Dan Welby wrote one on Top Fuel Car.
Yes, I've got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And exactly. But Haynes don't even realise it's out there. They published it. It's really strange. But there's a project for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not exactly rocket science. It's more flow dynamics,
Right.
but that ultimately is
Well, it
rocket
is
science.
rocket
Of
science.
course, it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it's a specialized tank which we fill up with water, and we heat the water to around about 250 degrees C, and because it's pressurized, it doesn't boil. So we're
yeah.
not generating steam until the very last moment, where it enters the level nozzle, which are the rocket nozzles at the end, and then it flashes to steam in the nozzle. And as water flashes to steam, it expands at around about 1620 to 1.
Wow.
And that's where we get the power. And you get it right, it goes fast. If you get it wrong, it just runs really wet.
So on, like obviously the likes of Eric, he was running with no brakes. He just stopped the bike because it all ran out, right? With because you're not a method man. You just like go. Let's have this. How do you stop yours? Does it just run out and
Yeah, we've
yeah,
run out of with the old rocket. We're building a new rocket which will be out this year,
right.
which is 30% bigger. Um, but with last year's bike, when we ran the 583 in the quarter, and we've been running the 0.72s and the 0.73 60
Seven
foots,
threes, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
the sub 2 second 330s, 3.1 in the eighth. It's got some power.
yeah.
We've only been using just under 2 seconds of thrust. So to put that into perspective, we've run out of power before the grandstands on the pitch side at Pod, and then we coast 1,000 foot. So
And what sort
we're
of, yeah, what sort of at that point, what, because you're coasting, but just so people can understand, what's that speed at that point?
um, the quickest we've seen on the login is 191. The
Right, there we are.
quickest that we've recorded at Melbourne, which is the eighth,
Yeah, yeah,
is
right,
185.8.
okay.
So we're not 200 miles an hour, but we're not far off. But you've got to remember, in that eighth, we've already shut off for half of the eighth. We're only running for 300 foot to 330 foot,
Yeah,
16th.
yeah,
So that's where our peak speed and miles per hour is. And from that, because we've packed in thrusting because we've run out of water, we're
yeah,
not going to go any quicker. We're always going to decelerate from there on.
yeah. And you can't really give it a bigger boost on the line and just get it a little bit of a kick because it's
Well, we're on the limit.
unless the new rocket is going to change that, but it's probably not going to change it a great deal. And even at that speed, you're still holding on, you know.
Yeah, that's right. With the biggest G-force we've seen on the data logging is 6.8 G on the hit,
Yeah.
which is significant.
And then at the
Uh,
other end, obviously it's slowing down, but on a negative G, what you pulling?
we've seen a minus 1.5 G with the
Yeah,
parachute. So,
yeah,
but we're not really running quick
no,
because it's unlike any other vehicle. We get all our acceleration done in the first 2 seconds,
yeah,
where most vehicles are struggling for traction and the clutch hasn't fully engaged and they're not generating the power. And they make it up in the second eighth. And because of that, their terminal exit speeds are quite high.
yeah,
Whereas we had been decelerating since 300 foot. So
yeah,
our terminal speeds are low, but our ETs are high
yeah,
because
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So in
And
that respect, it's quite well, it's as safe as you can get them. Like
yeah,
Eric, different setup. He didn't have quite as much power off the line, but he had a longer duration. So
yeah,
he ran to around about 1,000 foot with his power,
yeah,
and his exit terminal speed was 291. And that takes some stopping. It's
absolutely.
yeah,
And did
that feels dragging you in. It really
yeah,
is.
it's just there. I just stop.
Yeah, that's right. And you've got to stop, and that's the bit that nobody sees.
Yeah,
Apart
yeah.
from apart from the safety crew and Angie at the end.
Angie, yeah, good.
Yeah,
Angie,
yeah,
yeah, lovely to
yeah.
see Angie. Always a big smile on her face, isn't it? So yeah,
That's right. Yeah, and she
yeah,
always goes on to ET slips and says, "Look what you've done."
yeah. Well done,
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's
So
cool. So
so with
where?
the with the
Yeah,
2026 bike, we're looking to run beyond 3 seconds of power. So our terminal speed in the eighth will be somewhere around 260 miles an hour. So it becomes a different animal to what we're
Wow.
used to.
That's a lot of
So
boiling water there.
it's a lot of boiling water. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So what we can't just add another second's worth of water because the bike would be just too big.
And heavy. Yeah.
And exactly. So your power to weight's against it. So what we've got to do is we've got to generate a little bit more water, so we have a larger tank, but we've got to make the bike more efficient. And because what we've learned in the last couple of years with running the bike, we know what we need to do to make it more efficient so that we can generate the same power by using less water. So instead of using 44 litres of water per second, we'll be using around about 35 litres of water. And if I've got my calculations right, that will give us around about between 3.1 and 3.4 seconds of power. So that should take us to around about 800 foot. Now, with the same acceleration rate. So it doesn't take much to work out that we've got the potential to run a 2-second eighth and a 4-second quarter.
Wow.
Now, doing calculations and using extrapolation curves, I don't want to actually say what it works out at because people will hold me to it, but it's looking encouraging to be able to go quicker than Eric, but not as fast. So
Right,
we'll
yes.
never go faster than Eric because Eric's bike runs in a completely different way.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can't take it away from Eric. Eric's been there and he's done it, and he holds the record.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and it's a target for us to achieve. We may get it, we may not, but we
Yeah.
haven't got anywhere near as much power as Eric.
This might sound like a silly question, okay? Probably not, but maybe. The water you use, is that just normal bog standard water? And then obviously you then having to be clearing the rocket with, like residue and everything else after the runs and stuff like that. Is that how it roughly works? Just as a, like a lay person that.
Okay, so the pressure vessel, the valves, everything that the water comes into contact with is 316 stainless steel.
Right.
So that's inert.
Mm-hmm.
The water we use is super pure, demineralized, deionized water,
Right.
which is the same as what you use in power stations
Yeah.
because pretty much the same pressures and temperatures.
Right.
So we get that water and we test it to make sure that it's at the right level of purity. And there's a standard of purity using a gauge of microsiemens, and you do it for the conductivity of the water. So 1 microsiemens is a millionth of an ohm. So you can work out how pure the water is by conductivity. We tend to use water which is between 4 and 10 microsiemens purity, which is very, very pure. If you drank enough of that water, it would kill you.
Yeah.
Because it would extract the minerals out of your organs. So it's not advisable.
No, tell me, where would you get that sort of stuff from?
No, you can buy it. Yeah, well, it's used as a control.
Dungeness or something.
Well, we do actually get it from a power station.
Yeah.
Phil Wood, who rides the bike occasionally with us, he's got contacts in the power generation industry because that's where he's working, and we've done a deal with one of the power stations that we can get water from them. We take away 1,000 litres, but they use over 10,000 litres just to purge down. It's nothing to them.
No.
And they've got big RO plants which they can generate it themselves. I've actually got my own reverse osmosis plant in the workshop, so I can make my own water, but it's a very slow process.
Yeah, yeah.
It takes about an hour to make 25 litres. So 4 hours of ROing to do 1 run.
Yeah, we're not talking about mallard here, we're talking about something completely different.
Absolutely,
It's incredible. And people probably wouldn't even think about, having a separate water and stuff like that. So therefore, I guess in some respects, it's not too much of a cleanup after then, in some respects.
In the inside of the vessel, well, the vessel we ran last year, after 25 heat cycles, we strip the bike down. It goes away to be tested, and it has an internal visual inspection, and they do crack testing and have an X-ray and make sure that everything's correct. It passed with 100%, which is reassuring.
Yeah.
after 25 heat cycles. But the inside of the vessel was as clean as it was new. There's no calcification. There's no deterioration due to cavitation. So we're doing something right.
Yeah.
Because evacuating 100 liters of water effectively in 2 seconds it's
Yeah.
there's a lot of forces there. Yeah,
Exactly. So the force of nature is, in fact, an exhibition bike, really, isn't it?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so it's, you know, incredible. So what's your programs for this year? What events are you likely to be seeing at? And people can come along and experience this awesome steam bike.
Okay,
What you
well,
want?
we've been invited to run at three of the major Santapod events
Yeah,
um, because we're quite a draw. We've got
yeah.
quite a large following now as well,
Oh
and
well, I'll take a t-shirt off you.
yeah, exhibition vehicles are all part of the big picture, and
Absolutely,
drag
yeah,
racing has always run hand in hand with exhibition vehicles.
yeah,
And it just so happens that the exhibition vehicles are getting quicker, and they're not just wheelie cars
yeah,
and an old J34 rockets.
yeah,
There's look at Martin Hill. He's running very fast,
yeah.
and well, all of the jet cars. There's no slouches. They're all in the
No,
fast.
no. You've got Julian. You've got obviously you've got
Roger,
Firestorm.
yeah,
Martin's got three now. It's incredible, and uh, yeah, people love it. They just love it. It's just something else to see, isn't it?
that's right. Yeah, yeah,
You know.
and yeah. So I'm representing rockets and two wheels as well. But yes, at the end of the day, it's exhibition, and we're not in any championships, and we're just doing it to push the boundaries, really.
So it's just the three at Centre Point. Anywhere else, Melbourne or anywhere?
Yeah, so we've got Festival of Power, the
Yeah,
main event, and the
yeah,
finals, and we're
yeah,
running three times at Melbourne. We're in the first Melbourne, running the Jet Fest and the fireworks.
yeah.
We've got six there. We were asked to go. Well, when we left Hockenheim last year, they said see you next year. But Hockenheim's notoriously difficult to get anything out of until the last minute. So we've got the
Yeah,
ferries
yeah,
booked already and the carnet is all ready to go. So I would imagine we'll be going to Hockenheim.
yeah.
Um, we've also had invitations to take it to Kumandras in Hungary, but
Wow.
it was a little bit early this year. So Benny and myself have decided that we'll wait till 2027 because it's Kumandras's 30th celebration as well.
Cool. Yeah.
And also we've been invited to take it over next year to Romania, to
Brilliant.
Tallinn. So that's really good. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
So
we've got inquiries to take it over to America as well, but it's just a logistic nightmare, really, trying to
that
get.
would be. Can you imagine that and the length of time it takes for stuff to come back from America, not because of the taxes and everything else, but everything nowadays, all drag racing is suffering because it's taking so long.
Yeah,
And, people from over here are going to the States and shipping stuff out there. It's taking forever. It's just crazy.
yeah. My valves that I use, I buy them in from America.
Yeah.
Not because of the performance, it's because of the oil and gas industry in Texas.
Yeah.
So that's where the technology for high pressure, high temperature valves are.
Mm,
And yeah, I mean, those valves. Just getting back to the bike, those valves have created problems. We've gone to a ball valve again. We were using a butterfly valve, but it was generating too much disruption with the water. So we've gone back to a ball valve. But the Achilles heel of the valve are the soft seats because it's got to seal 100% bubble tight. It can't leak. Otherwise, you lose your pressure and then you can't get your temperature. And if you don't get your temperature, you haven't got the power because it's a temperature, the
yeah.
energy in the water that you release that converts it to thrust. So we were having all sorts of problems with the valves leaking. So the vessel that we've just finished with, we made it smaller. So it was the smallest motor we've ever used so that we could use two valves. So two valves stand less chance of leaking. And it was a safety barrier. But the seats, we were using a set of seats every three runs. because the water, they were actually melting. And the cheapest I could buy these seats were £320 each.
Right.
So it was over £1,200, basically £400 a run it was costing just in seats.
Wow.
And of course, people don't realise this. They think you just put water in it, heat it up, and go to the line.
Yeah, no, burning your bum.
And burn your bum, yeah, because that seat does get warm. So, and the
Yeah.
reason being is the seats, the valves that we were using were actually made in Norway, but Norway wouldn't deal with me because I was just a guy in a shed. You know,
Right.
I'm not SO or BP.
Yeah.
So I had to buy them from one of their sister companies in America. So the valve seats were shipped from Norway to America,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
from America to me. So I
Yeah.
were paying duty every time it went
Every
across the
time.
water. Yeah,
Gosh.
that's why it was so expensive.
Yeah,
We now don't use, yeah, we now don't use those. We've got a company in this country that have developed a polymer for us.
right.
I've, I've generated, basically we're making our own seals now,
Yeah.
the material that's been made for us, and we're getting great results. So we can go 12 runs now without changing seats,
Incredible.
which is great. And they're
Much
not
better.
£300 each. We're getting them for about £35 each. So
Oh, that's not so bad.
suddenly becomes affordable.
Incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
What an absolute. I guess because of what you do, it's exhibition and everything else. Is there any sort of regulations that you have to? Obviously, do you get scrutineered and things like that and
Well,
so
because
on?
it's an no, well, because it's an exhibition
You
vehicle,
don't
we
need
don't get
to.
scrutineered.
Yeah.
But to get the insurance,
Yeah.
um, you've got to conform to a specification of regulations.
Yeah.
But there weren't any regulations written. So the UK Timing Association or accreditation, the UK ITA,
Yeah.
approached me and said, "Can we work together to formulate some rules so that you don't just get anybody rolling up and with things that are potentially dangerous?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
what we're doing is very dangerous,
Mm.
and it's got to be done in a safe and controlled manner."
Yeah. Yeah.
So regulations have been written so that if anybody else wants to have a go, which I wholeheartedly encourage, we've got regulations that you've got to adhere to.
Yeah.
They're all safety regulations, so there's no wheelbase restriction or volume or capacity.
Yeah.
That's all pretty much self-controlling because you can't get a bike with a vessel that's too big because it just
No.
won't happen, you know.
Superb. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Do you know what, Graham? It's been amazing talking to you. The knowledge and that you've got. I mean, I surprised myself even thinking about the water side, so I didn't even understand. And then it sort of come out, oh, hey, and then it's a genuine thing. So
Well,
it's,
yeah. Well, what's really good about what we're doing is everything we've designed and made ourselves, and we're out there doing it. And you know, with the quickest accelerating vehicle over recorded 60 foot ever. You know, quicker than Clay Millican, quicker than Leah Pruitt and Brittany, and you know all these
yeah,
guys that are spending millions and millions of dollars. And I
yeah,
know they've got regulations, and I know that they're wheel driven. I get that completely, but it's just a nice thing to think that we built this in the shed and we're just using, you know, a little bit of kerosene and a little bit of water, and we're getting there. You know, it's just physics at the end of the day,
yeah,
and it's nice to be able to have that ability to fail and learn from your mistakes and
absolutely.
move
Yeah.
forward without any rules, really. Yeah, it's great.
Incredible. So thank you so much. Thank you to Julian. I just want to say thank you to some people as well. Thanks to Dave Hardware, who does all of the camera work for me on the obviously the podcasting and everything else. He does a lot of the editing as well, which is absolutely amazing. Does a top job for me. Obviously to me, other half Lisa, very big support to me. And then sponsors so far this season, Jeff Stilwell, for Redline Synthetic Oils, of course, Land Speed Band, of course. And Alan and Lee Bates are supporting us for Dragstalgia with their Raptor car. That's going to be something to see this year as well. Flexi Waste from Steve Ashdown, the Undertaker team. They will be looking after us for the main event. And as if, you know, not everybody, but we're looking for anyone that would be just as you know, as an aside, we're looking for people to sponsor us for race meetings. So, for instance, with 2 day, 1 day, whatever, you know, we're always looking for someone to give us a hand, fuel wise, and you know, tickets, because we have to buy tickets. Not so much at Manston and obviously Melbourne, but obviously Centre Pod, we're buying tickets and stuff and so on. So yeah. So anyone out there that wants to get involved with us and support what we're doing, fantastic. So, but Graham Sykes, what a top man. Thanks to Julian Hunt again for encouraging to come and have a chat with you. I'm just absolute, the physics and everything else that you do is just incredible. So thank you very much. Stay there and
You're
we'll
welcome.
chat to you in just a moment. Thank you very much. Graham Sykes, top man, the force of nature. Thank you.
Thank you.